Today, we have a special guest from Indonesia. His name is Chro. Welcome, Chro.
Hi, Trey. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Could you please introduce yourself?
Hello everyone. My name is Chro. I'm from Indonesia. I live in Jakarta, the capital city of Indonesia. And yeah, now I'm in Tree's channel. Happy to be here.
I'm glad that you are here. So we'll start from your country. How many languages can Indonesian people can speak?
It depends from where they live. If they live in big cities, for example, Jakarta or the capital, I think most people can speak at least two languages, or at least they can understand two languages. If you count local languages, then Indonesian people can speak three languages because every Indonesian has their own local language, right? For example, if you were a Javanese, then you can speak Javanese. That's like a local language in Java. So I would say three languages.
We are kind of sharing the same thing here in India also. If you go to the different state or different province, you will kind of greeted with a different languages.
Right.
Jakarta, you were saying most of the people can speak two languages. Is this Indonesian language and the second one is English?
Exactly.
What is like to say hello in Indonesian language? What about how are you and nice to meet you?
How are you is apa kabar? Nice to meet you is nang berkenalan denganmu. But you know what? We don't really say this because it's too formal. In Indonesia, we speak, like informally. We only use colloquial languages.
It's kind of is too much formal to address with this.
Right.
Okay, that is interesting. So let's dive into your cuisine, food.
I know one cuisine that I think it's pretty well known
Hmm.
worldwide. Because if I'm not mistaken, it has been ranked first in like, I don't know, the most delicious cuisine in the world, and it's called rendang. It's basically beef.
Okay,
It's funny because you guys don't eat beef, right?
yeah, yeah. So any second option?
I would say Indomie.
Do me.
I don't know if it counts as cuisine, but yeah, I feel like it comes a close second.
So okay, moving on. What is like living in Indonesia? Can you share any interesting thing about Indonesia?
Interesting about Indonesia. Well, first of all, I was born here. I grew up. I lived, my whole life here, basically. So I know that every country has its own problem and all that, right?
Hmm.
And Indonesia is no unique. It has its own problem. When I compare these problems to other countries' problems, I feel like Indonesia's problems are not that bad. But I wouldn't say my answer represent the majority of Indonesian people because like every person's experience differ from one another, right?
Hmm.
But for me personally, I think I enjoy living in Indonesia. First of all, I like the people, and then the food, and yeah, like most of my friends and my family live here. And when you about the interesting thing, um, I like the meme culture. Yeah, I like the meme culture in Indonesia. It's just there's something about Indonesian meme culture. I don't know, man. I find it really really funny every time I see a meme Indonesian meme video or anything. I don't know why, but anything could be edited into an Indonesian meme. So every time I come across with one, I just, for example, if I uh, find it on Instagram, I just love it. I type twice. I just love it. I don't know why.
Okay, so the Indonesian people kind of creative making memes.
Oh, they're so creative. So creative. They're mad creative.
That's kind of an interesting thing. What aspect of Indonesian culture do you think would surprise people who haven't visited the country before?
This is a good question. I think there are a few, no, there are many cultures that would shock foreigners when they first come to Indonesia. For example, Well, there are some cultures that are similar to other Asian countries, not only Indonesia. Is that okay?
Yeah,
You know, things like you eat with hands. This is not only Indonesia, right?
means you guys eat with your hand. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Same with India also. We also often eat things with our bare hand, I would say.
I don't know if this is shocking or interesting, but Indonesian people are pretty known for their over over proud. So, for example, if there's a YouTuber, they put Indonesia in the title of the video, or they mention something about Indonesia, all Indonesian will like out of nowhere appear in the comment section, or they would say, oh, they would comment with Indonesian flags. They would say like, oh, I'm from Indonesia. I mean, like, I don't know if it's a good thing or
Yeah, it's kind of patriotic mindset, right?
yeah, but because of that mindset, many foreigners take advantage of that. Or like they just put whatever things related to Indonesia just to get views and get more
Yeah,
followers.
they kind of know that how to trigger them, right?
I don't know, man. I feel sad.
Mhm.
Sometimes when I see the video, it's like a absurd video, but still, when it as long as it has Indonesia in the title, people like it. Indonesian people like it. They still comment it, and I feel like, hey, they shouldn't be doing this.
I can relate to your answer. The same kind of thing I can see here in India also.
But I feel like these days it's getting less. I mean, people are starting to realize that they're getting used. So
Mhm.
now when I see a video that has Indonesia or Indonesian flag in the title, there are people comments saying like, "Oh, they're just using Indonesia to get views," you know. Oh, they don't actually care about Indonesia. They only want to get views. That's why they put Indonesia in the title and things like that. So yeah, I'm happy to read those comments because it made me realize, all right, people are getting better.
Yeah, yeah. So they are used to it. They become smart. They know this is a trap.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what upsets me the most is when the video is a really cringe video
Mhm.
and people are still proud as long as it has Indonesia in the title or as long as Indonesia is talked about in the video. That
Mhm.
what because it's just ridiculous, I think.
This kind of thing, I would say, in the long run, it kind of faded away.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Could you say any traditional festival or celebration that are significant to your country?
Well, as you know, Indonesia is I think the largest Muslim populated country, right?
Mhm.
So the what do you call the Islamic um
Eid.
yeah, Id.
Mm.
So Id is really big. It's a it's a big thing in this country. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously because most people are Muslims, right?
Mhm.
And even me as a Christian, I also celebrate it with my Muslim friends.
Mhm.
So that's the thing. Oh, I think this can also answer your previous question.
Mhm.
One of the things that I really like about Indonesia is their tolerance. You know,
Mhm.
I know that there are some intolerance problem in this country, but from my own experience, most people or most of my friends, even if we believe in different religions, I've never had any problem regarding religions with them or with my family because I also have family with different religions, and
Mhm.
I think that's what makes Indonesian powerful, and we come together as one instead of focusing on each other's difference.
Mhm.
That's when people can be a better society, especially Indonesia. Because I think religion is such a sensitive matter in this country, and that's why a lot of politicians make use they use religion again to get votes and to get popularity, which is political identity, which is bad.
The more I listen to your answers, I kind of think that you are talking about your country, but it's so related to our country also.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
man.
why.
Yeah.
That's why I said in the beginning, like I feel like there are so many things in our country that are similar to other countries, right?
the one who have democracy and all, we kind of said the same thing with there, I would say. Indonesia is a Islamic majority country, but it's not like the conservative Islamic country, like the one you see from the other part of the world.
Right.
Yeah. So you have the proper democracy in your countries. Here in India, we do also have the democracy.
But I wouldn't use the word proper because I don't think we have proper democracy here.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like in the past few months.
Mm-hmm.
Uh we've just had our presidential election last February, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like prior to the voting day, there were so many hoax, there were so many fake news, there were so many um articles trying to make the other candidate look bad. They try to, so it's basically cyber war, to make people think bad of a certain candidate. There's also this thing where I don't know. Every time I talk about politics, it's just it it never ends. It's a never-ending topic.
This is also I can relate with my country. A country with diverse religious population, politicians often use this difference to gain votes. Yeah,
And they'll be keep using it in the next election and next election.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so moving on. Do you like traveling?
I do like traveling, but I've only traveled once.
Okay, so you didn't get enough opportunity to travel.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So in my family, I'm the only one who has only traveled once. By travel, I mean like traveling abroad, right? So every time my family went abroad, they went on a like a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
I was either still in school because I attended a boarding school, so I couldn't go out whenever I wanted, right? Or I was sick,
Okay. Oh man.
or I had exams or stuff like that. So that's why whenever my family went abroad, I was the only one who didn't go with them.
Okay, so moving on. What are the some famous place in Indonesia?
There are a lot of famous places in Indonesia. I think one of the most well known to foreigners is Bali, and I think you've also heard of Bali, right?
Yeah, it's very famous.
Yeah, it's famous, but at the same time, it's too crowded.
Mm.
As I don't know, it's too crowded, and people act like they don't have any, like they never learned mannerism. They act so uncontrollably, violently. They're so, I don't know, man. It's funny because I'm pretty sure in their own country they wouldn't do these things, but once they come to Bali, they turned into animal.
Oh,
For example, the way they ride the bikes on the road, they never used helmet. They don't even wear clothes.
and that's kind of
I mean, they
creepy.
don't even they don't even have a driver's license. But again, that's where Bali gets its money from, from these tourists. And in order to get these tourists uh keep coming back, you just gotta give what they want, right? Which is this hell of madness.
What do you think? How can we avoid this kind of thing?
I think first the government has to set their priority. Is it the tourism or the rules or the law?
Hmm.
I mean, if the government prioritize tourism, then nothing will change. People will still get what they want as long as they have money, right? Because it benefits this country. But
As you
if
said, some of the foreigner behave recklessly once they landed up in Bali.
Mhm.
If the government start to make them accountable of the thing which they do, that can.
Yeah, but when
Mhm.
when the rules become stricter, I think less foreigners would come to Indonesia. I mean, to Bali, because one of the reasons why they want to go to Bali was because, the lack of rules and laws were not that strict.
So it's kind of a tricky situation for the government. It's like a double-edged sword.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, moving on. If you had the opportunity to visit three countries other than Indonesia, which one would you choose?
Japan,
Mhm.
Switzerland, Antarctica. Is it a country?
To meet penguins?
Yeah, penguins and igloos. I don't know. I really want to go to a place where there's no people. I think that
Mhm.
would be very calming.
Yeah, for me also, I'm like a fond of that little bird called penguin. I want to see them.
Because I actually have a boss, right? well, not a boss, is like my my senior, and he's been to Antarctica, and
Mm.
I saw his photos there. It's amazing. I feel like, man, I really have to go there one day.
Yeah, I also want to go Antarctica.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I want to see them dance
Yeah,
like in that movie, Happy Feet.
yeah. Happy Pit and the other one from the Jim Carrey. What is that
Madagascar?
called? The other
Oh,
movie,
Jim Carrey.
the famous penguin movie.
Oh, Mr. Popper's Penguins.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is Popper's penguin. Yeah.
Right.
Moving on. What comes to your mind when you hear India? What do people in your country think about India?
Before I answer that, I need to give you some context. I
Hmm.
have an Indian friend, right? And I'm pretty close with her. So my perspective or my view or what I think about India might differ from what most people in Indonesia think of India. So because I have a friend and we're pretty close, and that friend is like one of the best people I've ever met. Well, not like physically, because we're online friends, right?
Hmm.
But that person is like one of the nicest people I've ever talked to. So I think, I don't know, man. I feel like every country has its own good and bad, right? Good side and bad side. I can't really, I don't want to generalize a country based on, a few bad cases or a few bad people. So my perspective of India is that it's a country full of, I'd like to say it, colors. So it's a country full of colors. Why? Because I don't know, man. It's so rich with cultures, and I feel like, especially if we compare it to Western countries, which is something that they lack of, they're lacking of, right? And I'm happy to see a country that still embrace their cultures, embrace their traditions, like their local food, local, I don't know, local dances, things like that. It always amazes me. It's always a great thing to see things like these still exist. So I feel like India, despite everything that has been going on, I mean, like, I know that some people might think differently about India, but it's the same with every other country. I know India has its own problem and all, and but so other countries. Other countries also has its own problems, but doesn't mean that it's a bad country like as a whole. There are good sides and bad sides. It's always like that everywhere.
Yeah.
Also, I like the what do you call it? Bollywood. You know the funny thing is, growing up, I used to watch. Well, it's not me who watched it, but people in my house watched it. And since I was there, I also watched it. People in Indonesia used to watch many Indian movies or Indian series. I can still remember some of the titles like Mahabharata.
It's Mahabharata.
What else? Mahabharata, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the animation Krishna, and then I can name some of the actors like Shah Rukh Khan. Oh man, I know I remember their faces, but I don't remember the names. So like the 2000s, I think from, I don't know, 2000 to 2010, or basically the 2000s, India was so famous in Indonesia, especially the movies, the series,
Hmm.
and the songs too. Like I remember uh Kuch Hota Hai.
Yeah.
Like those were so big, man. Like every Indonesian knew. But these days, I think, I don't know, people are more into either Western or Korean, like K-pop.
Hmm.
I have a high school friend. So there's this friend of mine. She was such a big fan of Bollywood or India that she learned the dances and the song. She can basically imitate dances from a movie scene. So we used to do it like, we would put our laptop, we would play, and she would do exactly what the actors did in the movie. She was that big of a fan.
Wow, that is interesting.
Also, the,
Ma-
the, the the soap
Mhm.
opera. The soap
Mhm.
opera is just amazing. I feel like especially the housewives, they really liked Indian soap operas.
But the episode is like 500,000 episodes. It's kind of
Exactly.
weird. It's kind of weird, but
So with top-notch editing and special effects.
yeah, man. The dramatic scene.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just love it.
Here in India, we kind of making meme out of it.
I mean, here too, man, in Indonesia too.
Yeah.
You know how one person can beat 100 people,
Yeah. Yeah.
how someone can fly and jump around and still
Yeah.
alive. It's just, yeah,
Yeah.
it's hilarious.
By the way, fun fact, Bollywood
Mhm.
majorly addressing the movie which is made in Hindi languages. And here in India, we are kind of more than 1500 different languages with different dialects and all. So Bollywood is
Mhm.
one of the film industry of India. There is multiple film industry in India.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
But we often hate to call that Bollywood. We often call it Hindi film industry since it's based on Bombay, which is Mumbai. That time they kind of mixed the Bombay and Hollywood and made it Bollywood.
Oh, oh,
Yeah,
that's a fun fact. I didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah, man. Okay, moving on. One deep question related to India and Indonesia. Indonesia and India share historically ties through trade and cultural exchange dating back centuries. How do you think this historical connection has influenced the contemporary Indonesian culture or society?
And I'm really bad at history. When I was in elementary, no, in primary school.
Mhm,
Well, no, it's actually in middle school. Yeah, in middle school we learned history, right? So I know that way back, like I don't know, that 1400, 1500, or 19, no, not 1900. I think it's like, well, I don't know, man. I don't know the exact time,
mhm.
but Indonesia is heavily influenced by India. I mean, the language, Sanskrit. And then, we also have Hinduism in Indonesia, especially in Bali. Like Bali is most Balinese, I mean Hindus, yeah, Hindus. And if you go to Indonesia, if you look at some of the landmarks, like the temple, the Hindu temple, it's similar to the ones that you have in India, right?
Mhm.
So there are some traces, there are some like legacy or some what do you call it? Things that was made way back in the past and it still exists here. It's a it's a big sign that India has a big influence on Indonesia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Mhm. That's kind of interesting thing. Yeah, I also read in the history, we kind of in like maybe in 2000 years ago, we used to trade with Indonesia, with Bali, Sumatra, Java Island. Yeah. Another interesting thing about your country is that Java, the Java language, programming language, is too famous, but it's based on your island. That is kind of
Oh,
interesting
really?
thing, isn't it?
I didn't know that. Oh, I know one thing though. We have this animal. As far as
Uh-huh.
I know, there's only
Hmm.
these animals. They're almost extinct, but they live in an island called Komodo Island. It's lizard but big. Yeah, like I think they only exist in Indonesia and Australia, if I'm not mistaken. But I think most of them are in Indonesia.
Hmm. Okay, moving on. What are the most popular educational program in your country?
I can't think of any program or any major that really stands out because I feel like it's even. I mean, I have friends and they all have different majors. I have um there's doctor, engineer, even artist. So it's really it varies a lot. I can't really tell which one is the most common, but I could say that I think engineering is still at the top
Mhm.
because like in many countries, engineering jobs pay the most, I think.
Yeah, true.
So that's probably the main reason why people can still go for engineering program or major, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I never really look at the data or statistic, so I don't know. I don't really know which one is the most common.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. How do young people in your country view entrepreneurship? And what are your personal thought on it?
I think it's getting more and more popular these days. A lot of young people they are starting their own business.
Mhm.
That's why more and more startups are emerging. But I don't know if they do this because they really want to, they're ready to sacrifice something in order to get what they want, or they just FOMO. You know FOMO?
Yeah, yeah, fearing of missing out.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
my friend are building their own business, then I want to do it too.
Mhm.
And I've seen many people failed. I've seen many businesses fail because of this. They
Mhm.
didn't really know what they're doing. They just do what other people do. Like, oh, many people start their own coffee shop, then I'm going to make my own coffee shop business. But a few months later, no one's coming to their coffee shop. I don't think they learned the market, I don't even think they have the fundamental knowledge of business or how to do business, right? They just listen to what their friends say because they make a good coffee, then their friends say, "Oh, you should open your own coffee shop."
Mhm.
And that's like,
This kind of a deep thing you are saying. Yeah, it could be the case.
yeah. But yeah, I feel like when we talk about the professional or the serious ones, yes, there are more and more young people who are into business, and I feel like it's not just any business, but they're really prepared. They really know how to do business. They really know the market. They know all of the factors that come into play when it comes to business, right? It's great. It's great. One of the reasons why I say it's great because it opens up job opportunities to other people, right? Because that's also one of our major problems. It's one of the major problems in Indonesia, which is unemployment. I think, yes, Indonesia has its own advantage of young people. Like, I think more than 50% of Indonesian population is young, like in people who are in their productive age, maybe like 20 to 30, I don't know. But at the same time, the unemployment rate is also high. It's like I don't know if it's a strength or is it a weakness? I don't know, man.
In developing country, and if the country have the huge population, so the unemployment thing is kind of prominent in that combination, I would say. But gradually, this employment issue can be solved once the country focus on the entrepreneurship and focus on the thing, how to
Mhm.
leverage the population of the country, right? You can leverage your country's population to start a
Right.
business out of it and all. So most of the people, they are kind of a dependent that if I am qualified enough, I can get a job, then that would be is good for my life and all. But they are not into that entrepreneurship, right?
Right. I
You're
agree.
just not making the business, you are generating the employment, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not saying that people who work at a company is bad because we still need people. We still need managers. We still need
Yeah.
supervisors in companies, right? And they also make good money too. So I think people have to know their own potential. So it takes time to know what you want to do, to know what you're really good at. But once you know that, that's a really valuable thing, or that's a really valuable knowledge that could help you to get better in the future. Because once you know what you're good at, once you know what you really love doing, and it's like you're already, I don't know, one or two steps ahead of others because that's what is more likely for you to be successful at, my opinion.
Yeah, completely agree with you.
Mhm.
You have to know your talent. That definitely gives you the edge over others. Another thing is, yeah, entrepreneurship is not for everyone, right?
Right.
What I'm saying is, people need to know that engineers and doctors are not the only options out there. You can start looking at things that you are good at. If you have the right idea, you can start a business with only $100.
But there's also, I think there's also other reason why people are afraid to start a business because most of the successful businesses in Indonesia and in other countries as well, it's those who are successful are either from a rich family or someone who has relatives or maybe like connections to powerful people. So these things, when you don't have any of these, people are like, well, just forget it. It's not gonna success. This business won't work. And there are many influencers and many many businessmen or businesswomen here in my country, they encourage people to start a business, start even with $1 and blah blah blah. But that person who talk like that actually comes from a wealthy family. It's kind of like um hypocrisy, right? They
Mhm.
keep telling people that I started my business from zero. I don't have money when I first started my business. When in reality, they came from a rich family, so they they have their parents' money. Like even if they fail one business, they can just ask money from their parents and start another one, right? And then what? Then what's with the people who don't have either of those things? What if and for the most part, people don't have these things, powers and wealth. So like, yes, it's easy for them to say, don't be afraid, just start your own business because they have their parents and they have some backups, right?
Yeah.
I think that's also one of the reasons.
The one of the basic thing for the business like the distribution. You
Hmm.
know what to sell, but where to sell. This is something which is kind of the fundamental thing of the business, right? First you have the product, but where to sell that? But today's, I mean, this internet era, if you have a decent following, like in Instagram or somewhere, you can monetize those, right? You can
Hmm.
sell them a
Buy
course,
your own product. Yeah.
yeah, buy your own product. But you have to be, I mean, creative and you have to use resources.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Are there any misconception or stereotypes about Indonesia that you like to address?
People keep mistaking Bali as in as its own as a country.
Oh,
You know,
really?
especially Western
Mhm.
people, like when you go ask them, do you know Bali? Yes. Do you know Indonesia? No. So like many foreigners know Bali, but they don't know Indonesia. They don't even know that Bali is part of Indonesia. They think that Bali is an own country. So
Mhm.
that's I don't know, that's kind of sad because many tourists come to Bali but they don't know the country where they spend their holiday in. Oh, also there's another one. Many people think that we speak Bahasa. Well, it's not completely wrong, but it's still not right.
Mhm.
We don't speak Bahasa, but we speak Bahasa Indonesia because Bahasa means language. So if you say we speak Bahasa, it means we speak language.
Oh, okay.
It's better to just say we speak Indonesian.
Okay, the interesting
So
thing
it's
is you say
easier.
Bahasa, right? It is, I guess it is derived from the Sanskrit, from the called Bhasa.
Yeah, yeah. See,
Yeah,
we are heavily influenced by
yeah.
Indonesian.
Bhasa means
Yeah.
language.
So
Yeah.
exactly. So whenever say foreigners say, "Oh, you guys speak Bahasa, right?" It's funny because it's like say you speak language.
Yeah.
So the correct form is Bahasa Indonesia, Indonesian language, basically.
Mhm. Can you name any famous scientist or athlete or artist from your country?
Mm, I can name Iko Wise. So I don't think he's famous in other countries, but he played in some Hollywood movies like Fast and Furious, Mortal Kombat, and also some other that I forgot the title of. But if you ask me like the famous people in this country,
Hmm.
well, first of all, Yokoi, our president. And then to be very honest with you, I'm not really I don't keep up with, entertainment or whatever happening in this country, so I don't really know who's famous these days.
Hmm.
But to me, maybe oh, there's this one actor. His name is Reza Rahardian. I don't know why, but he plays in every movies. I'm not sure if it's because his acting skills or is it because he's the only one
Hmm.
who can act. I don't know, man.
Okay, moving on.
Mhm.
Okay, it's a little deeper question. What are the some of the major challenges facing Indonesia today, and how do you believe they can be addressed?
We briefly mentioned it before, which is unemployment.
Hmm.
Indonesia has. many problems, not only unemployment. There's also, I don't know, like intolerance between people of different religions and some violence from the authorities, like police, or Indonesia is a very diverse country, right? Just like India. So we have like I don't know 20,000 plus islands with different, all with its own languages. So it's like thousands of languages. And even before Indonesia gained its independence, you know, Indonesia used to be, it's just a bunch of islands next to each other. And then one day they became one and formed a country named Indonesia. But before that, we were just like people from different islands, right? Before Indonesia even existed. So to unite these people with different backgrounds, different languages was not easy, right?
Yeah.
It was such a difficult job. So I really respect like um our ancestors, our founding fathers, because they were the ones who did the hard work to make Indonesia as it is today, right?
Hmm.
But even then, we still have problems with difference, like differences, be it religion or ethnicities or cultures and stuff like that. And that's why I say intolerance has been a problem since I don't know, man, since God knows when, since this country was established. I think
Hmm.
it is a problem, but it's also something that could make us stronger. Why? Because with all these differences, we get many perspectives. We get many um how do you say it? I don't know, man. I feel like when you live in a place with different background and different personalities, it really shapes you into a better person. It gives you a broader knowledge and a broader view instead of when you live in a in an echo chamber. You know, you live with people with the same opinion, the same way of thinking. I don't think you would grow as much as if you live with different, people with different backgrounds and different languages. So I think it's a plus point that Indonesia has many differences like culture or traditions, religions.
Yeah, man, completely agree your point. Yeah.
One thing that makes it this worse is that the politicians, they use religions to gather supporters.
Hmm.
It's like um it's like it's as if they use one religion against another. So it's like if you want this country to be this religion or that religion, then you should vote for me. Things like that.
Yeah, man, totally
And I
relate to
and I
totally relate to it. I would say the same thing is happening here in India also.
it's not completely that politician's fault because it's also the supporters' fault. I
Yeah.
mean, why would they think that way, and why would
Yeah,
they
man.
support someone with
Yeah.
that vision? That's
Yeah, man.
completely wrong. The fact that that person uses religion, you shouldn't have voted that person in the first place. That's a big red flag. That's why in the last political election, people didn't vote for the best candidate, but the least worst candidate.
Sometimes the movie which we like, if the story is good and everything is good, not necessarily get the enough box office success, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I haven't talked about the tolerance part. Even if I say Indonesia has its own problem with, being intolerant, but there are many examples where people are still tolerant to one another. For example, there are many places in here in Indonesia where church and mosque stand next to each other, and they live happily, they live in peace. There's no problem, especially in villages, in small, like in rural area in Indonesia, you would hardly encounter intolerance problem. The
Mhm.
intolerance problem is more likely to be found in bigger cities, like big cities or the capital. Because in villages or in rural places, people are more connected because usually in places like this, people know one another, right? Because
Mm.
there's just a few people or just a few family that they know everyone in that village.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why even if they have different or even if they believe in different religions, it doesn't matter because I don't know, man, because their bond is so strong
Yeah.
that no differences can change that. And I think people should that you can live happily and in peace with people from different religions. And there's no problem with that as long as you respect one another, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny and it's sad at the same time that people are still fighting or even murder just because of religion. That's crazy, man.
Yeah. You said that if you go to the capital, this kind of thing is kind of common.
Hmm.
Intolerance part is kind of you can see often in the metro city or something. But if you go to the smaller city or the villages or something, this kind of thing is not exist. And I
Wait,
guess,
wait, wait. I'm sorry, but I just remember something.
hmm
Now that when I give more thought about it, I think it's not completely true because especially here in Jakarta, I think people are more open-minded. Like more um they're more it's not like intolerance, but more like individualist. It's just like they don't really bother or they don't really care about other people's businesses. So if you have different religions or different ethnicities, as long as you don't bother me, as long as you don't treat me bad, then I won't treat you bad. I'm not gonna mess with you. Those kind of mentality.
hmm that's quite an interesting observation, I would say. Moving forward, now we are entering the final segment where we talk about the technology. If you were buying a vehicle today, would you lean towards a petrol powered vehicle like the normal vehicle or electric powered vehicle?
As of today, I would say petrol because yes, EV is such a good it's a good thing. Like I'm happy that people invented it. I'm happy that people are developing it. That like they put more time and effort and attention to EV because I'm pretty sure in the future that will be the mainstream vehicle. But as of today, I don't think, especially in my country, I don't think the infrastructure is ready for this. I mean, we can look at the like the recharging station. There's only a few recharging station, and I don't think it's wise to get an EV when you want to go far, far away. Like if you let's say you go to a rural place and there's no recharging station.
Yeah.
But that's I think that's probably one of the main reason why I wouldn't buy EV.
hmm
But maybe there's some solution for that. Maybe you could bring like a backup battery or something like that. I don't know. But
hmm
even then, because it's pretty new. I mean, it's not new, but compared to petrol fueled vehicle, EV is pretty new, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's tested enough to
hmm
be our daily drive or our daily vehicle. So I think I need more time to believe that EV is like just to convince me. Like I'm not convinced enough that I would buy EV because of it's recent or it's a newcomer. So I think I need more time just to convince me that okay, EV actually can replace petrol-based vehicles.
Yeah. Do you prefer Android or iOS?
iOS.
Okay.
So I've used both phones. I've used Android and iOS. I think my first phone was Android. It was like I don't even know the brand because it's like I don't know. I think it's just like a random Android phone. And then I had BlackBerry.
hmm
Actually, I want to ask you, does BlackBerry belong to Android or is it an own category?
This used to be a separate OS. Later they pivoted to Android, but it kind of failed. So they stopped making BlackBerry phones.
All right, so I used to use BlackBerry and then I switched to iPhone.
hmm
But my sister used Android and my parents use Android. So yeah, I've used and I know both phones. The reason why I choose iOS is because I don't know why, but from my experience, when I use Android, it kind of laggy. It's kind of laggy. But when I use iOS, I almost never. have my phone laggy. Like it's always smooth, it's always nice, it never lags or like I don't really encounter problems that I would encounter in Androids. And also one of the thing this might be subjective thing to say, but the user interface is just better in iOS in my opinion. I just
Mhm.
like how the UI looks in iPhone compared to Android.
Often people compare with iOS with Android, right? But what we
Hmm.
see is you can pick any iOS phone, that is iPhone, right?
Hmm.
iOS is only available in one phone, that is iPhone. So that
Right.
phone generally they are flagship phone, but in Android that's not the case. Android can be put it on the budget phone and it can be flagship phone also. So if you
True.
want to compare iOS with Android, you have to compare it with the what was the best Android phone which is currently available today with the iPhone. I also agree that iPhone is more of like user friendly, but Android is bit of not that friendly as compared to the iOS. But Android offers more customizable things to you than the iOS. In iOS, you kind of restrict yourself to do the thing which Apple wants you to do, not the other way around.
True.
So,
True.
yeah.
I think one of the reasons why I used iPhone was because most of my friends used iPhones. So I kind of had a peer pressure. I know this is wrong. Like, I don't think anyone should do this, but when I was a kid, so please be kind with me. I was a kid back then, and I was like, man, everyone used iPhones. So I also had to get one. And
Mm.
maybe that's also a way for me to blend with other people. I mean, with my friends, because, kids, sometimes they take superficial things too seriously. So that's why
Mhm.
whenever I see my friends use iPhone, then it means that I have
I
to
guess
use
most of
iPhone
the
in order.
people kind of think that everybody wants to have because first of all it is expensive and it looks so good. You see the Apple said they always the top notch, right? It will
Right.
really make you buy the iPhone, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
the prestige.
you say that because of the peer pressure. I thought it's because of the iMessage, but I can see iMessage is not that much popular outside the US. The
Exactly.
iMessage thing,
Yeah.
yeah. You guys are using most of the time WhatsApp, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. US, they usually use the iMessage. So if you are
Right.
an Android user, you're kind of a outsider. And the reason is the iMessage is not available in Android.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very hard to change the habit, right?
Hmm.
We see during the pandemic, so many instance messaging app came out, like the Signal. Elon Musk personally advertised it to use the Signal. But many people downloaded the Signal app on back then. But how many still using the Signal?
How many?
None, right? To switch to another messaging app. It's kind of a very difficult thing. So that's why also Google failed. Google tried to introduce many messaging app in past, but
Hmm.
none of them have succeed.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess we kind of carried away with this question. Okay, so according to you, which one do you personally think that most people in your country is used? Is it Android, right?
I think Android, yeah,
Yeah. For the computer, is it Windows?
it's also Windows.
Yeah.
The way I say it is from because I feel like most people, I think more than half people in Indonesia belong to the middle to lower income family. So that's why I go with Android because iPhone are usually more
Yeah.
expensive than
Yeah.
Android phones, right? So that's why I say more Android users,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
According to you, what are the most popular smartphone brands in your country?
I think for Apple, I mean, of course, iPhone and then Samsung. But there are
Mm.
also some lower, um, like cheaper ones like Xiaomi or um, Redmi,
Mhm.
Oppo, brands like those.
Yeah. Can you name some popular website or app commonly used in your country?
For messaging app, we use WhatsApp. Some people use Line. Some even use Telegram.
Hmm.
For social media, we use Instagram. I think people still use Facebook. But for young people, it's either Instagram or TikTok. Those two are like the top social media apps.
Hmm. And what about
And for
e-commerce?
game,
Hmm.
for e-commerce, we have our own e-commerce like Tokopedia, but we also use like the global one like Shopee or
Amazon?
Amazon, yeah, Shopee, Amazon. And for transportation, like online taxi like Uber, we use Grab and Gojek.
Hmm. And Bukalapak?
Yeah, Bukalapak is an e-commerce too.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I think most people use Tokopedia or Shopee these days.
Okay. So, man, that's the end of the podcast. Any final thoughts?
Um, I just want to say thank you. It's been fun.
Thanks to you, by the way, also. Did you enjoy the podcast?
I thoroughly enjoyed it, man.
Same here, man. Okay, so before we wrap up, could you kindly ask our viewers to subscribe the Billion Insights channel in Indonesian language as well as English?
All right. For those of you who are listening, don't forget to subscribe to the Billion Insights, and don't forget to hit that like button so you could hear more of me in the future episodes. And also don't forget to share this to your friends and families because I believe this account will get big in the future, man, because of this guy named Shri, which is such a nice gentleman. I've been really enjoying this podcast and hopefully he could get more and more episodes with more interesting people in the future. Buat kalian yang sedang mendengarkan, jangan lupa buat subscribe ke The Billion Insights. Semoga akun ini bisa terus jalan dan semakin sukses ke depannya. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Chro, for sharing your experience with us today. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning into the Billion Insight podcast. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes. And until next time, dream big and work hard. This is Sri signing out. Peace.